A quick new idea, daily, from the world's greatest TEDx talks. I'm your host, Atossa Leoni, and this is TEDx Shorts. Pamela Joy was working at Apple and Facebook before she founded Down to There, an online community that helps people strengthen their communication skills around sex in their relationships. So while she's an expert on sex now, she wasn't always. Today, she shares the story of how she overcame the negative messages about sex that were troubling her marriage and how she learned to reclaim her desire.
I grew up in the Midwest. I was nailing the shy and awkward part of childhood. When I went off to college, I flirted with this guy, and we started dating. My hormones and I were so excited about how things were going with this guy that despite an abstinence pledge I had taken in church, about 6 months into our relationship, I had sex for the first time. It was great. We eventually married, moved to California, and started our careers in tech. It was my own personal fairy tale. As the years went by, however, I started to notice a trend. About every 6 to 12 months, my husband would tap me on the shoulder and say, "We need to talk." We would sit down and he would look at me with a sense of rejection on his face and say, "I want more sex." I would look back with this sense of guilt on my face and say, "I don't, and I don't know why." But we're engineers, so we'd put our thinking caps on and we'd come up with solutions. Maybe you're familiar with some of these. There was the, "I know, let's go on vacation" solution. There was that, "It's probably hormonal, I'll just change birth control" solution. And of course, the ever popular weekly date night solution. We were good engineers, and all of these solutions worked for a little while. Fast forward 15 years, I was a busy working professional, and sex was at the very bottom of my to-do list. So the next time my husband came to me and said, "We need to talk," something felt different. It felt more serious this time, like our fairy tale was crumbling. I decided to get myself checked out medically and went to my gynecologist and explained to her that I'm really struggling with sexual desire. She laughed and responded, "Yes, you and every other woman in my practice." But then she looked at my chart and said, "There's nothing wrong with you hormonally. The medical community doesn't really have anything to offer you." But then she reached in her drawer and took out the business card of her own personal therapist, handing it to me saying, "This woman helped me, maybe she can help you." Well, I ran out to my car and I emailed her, and she responded back right away saying, "I'm sorry, I'm fully booked, not accepting new clients." She gave me about a half a dozen other sex therapists though, and I reached out to them and wouldn't you know it, fully booked, not accepting new clients. Now, the business side of me was like, wow, the market of people struggling with sex really must be huge. But the personal side of me was getting a little frustrated. So I got home, hopped online with my husband, and we found the website of someone who called herself a sex and relationship coach. A few days later, we're sitting in her office, starting to explain what's going on. And a little ways through the story, she paused and asked me the first in a series of very important questions. She said, "What messages did you get about sex as a child?" Now, I paused because I never really thought about that before. And as I searched back through the archives of my memory, I remember this time when I was 6 years old in a girlfriend's basement, and she told me, "If you put your hands here and wiggle, it will feel good." Well, I tried it, and it did actually feel pretty good. But as I was recounting that story, I realized that was the last positive message I have gotten about sex for a very long time. And she said to me, "It's okay to stay exactly as you are. There's no right way to live a sex life. But I'm curious, would you like to reconnect with that part of yourself that you've been disconnected with for so long?" Well, I said yes. And over the next several months, I learned to connect to my body through focusing on little things throughout my day that bring me physical pleasure. For instance, like a hot shower, a soft sweater, the feeling of sunshine on my face. I learned how to connect those feelings of pleasure to those feelings of pleasure. And in doing so, I realized my pathway to desire and arousal looks very different from my husband's. It's slower to build, but can often reach higher heights. Well, this was really exciting to me. I started to wonder, well, what if I shared my story with other women? So even though it scared the crap out of me to even think about talking about this with anybody else, I pulled out my phone, I messaged a few girlfriends, and moments later they were writing me back, "Oh my gosh, I'm having the same experience," or, "Oh, yes, but it's my partner who's having that experience." And then one of them wrote me and said a very bold statement that changed the collective trajectory of our lives. And she said, "Let's get together and talk about this." So we did. The next Sunday, we met in the park. We all came wearing yoga clothes because we couldn't tell our partners where we were going. No joke. That meeting was full of laughter. It was full of tears. It felt so profound that we decided to get together monthly. We kept meeting, same park, and we realized no topic was off limits. First, we talked about social messages that we'd heard. We talked about the messages we would have liked to have heard instead. We talked about masturbation, how we learned it, whether we do it. We talked about fantasy, what we fantasize about, and if we don't, what's holding us back? At the end of the year, I looked around at these group of women, and I was really surprised at what I saw. All of their lives had changed. Many were experiencing better sex and better relationships, just from talking about sex with their girlfriends. This was fascinating to me. What started as a personal journey has led me to talk to a growing number of people about my sexual experiences. First, my gynecologist, then my coach, my friends, research participants, and now you. I know things are shifting for those that I've talked with, which makes me wonder, what if thousands or millions had the opportunity to talk to a trusted friend about their sexual experiences? What if you reached out to a woman you know and asked her about her experiences, particularly those that bring her pleasure and joy?
The TEDx talk you just listened to was recorded at a TEDx event in Palo Alto, California. All TEDx events are independently organized by volunteers who believe in TED's mission of ideas worth spreading. Special thanks to the organizing team at TEDxPaloAlto. Want to listen to the full talk? Find Pamela's talk and more at TED.com/TEDxShorts. I'm Atossa Leoni. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.